student center. Don't worry, not COVID. I've been having allergy problems all year. I don't know. I moved in the new house. I don't know if there's something in the house. Oh, it has carpet. I never had carpet in my old house. It's all hardwood.
You said something about that earlier.
About the carpet?
Yeah.
Probably. I ripped out some
Yeah,
carpet.
when you were ripping it out, it was
Yeah.
messing up your allergies.
Yeah, that definitely did. That always does, though. So anyway, yeah, there's that. Now, I had another thing happen. I never give names. I never talk about it. I pointed him out because he did everyone a favor because it got me to go out there and fix that link. I had to download those again and put that out there. The other thing I can put out there, and I will put out there, are the PowerPoints that go with each chapter. And there's that and a couple other things I can put out there that will be helpful for people that want to go further than what we go, number one, or need that extra assistance and so on. Okay? You all happy now? Look, I did something right for a change, right? Don't answer that question. What I wanted to do, though, is I'm going to pull up the previous exercises that we were working on, or the previous project that we were working on, right? And what was mine called? I wasn't just using Hello World. It wasn't 21 days ago, was it? Let me look. Is this the one? That's not the one. No one's helping me here. Was it this one? Because it goes by the date it was created, not necessarily. Yeah, this is the one we were working on, right? It came to my attention that we might have to go backward a little bit before we go forward. Okay? And the reason is because there's always this problem when you teach computer programming, and that's that as soon as I start having to troubleshoot anything, a lot of people shut down. They start doing whatever they want to do instead of watching and paying attention to what's actually happening on the screen and paying attention to the problem and the different ways that we're trying to fix it. So all of a sudden, you get lost in it. You're not part of the class anymore. So that brought this. It brought this thought to my mind that maybe we should go backward a little bit and move forward from there. Okay. I am going to take this and paste this all into a Word doc really quick because I don't want to lose it. And then we'll continue from there if everyone's okay with that. Any naysayers? Keep your hands down back there. No, just kidding. Let me paste this in here. Okay, so there's that. We don't have to go all the way back to print Hello World. No, we're not going to go back all the way that way. But what we are going to do is I'm going to actually close out of this and I'm going to take us to a previous file that I have. And we're going to go back to the journal one that I did a long time ago, 3 years ago, because I know this code works. And I have comments and stuff in it. And I'm going to actually provide this to you guys really quick here. Can someone remind me how I had to do this so it worked for you guys?
I think you copied it into an announcement or something like that.
Yeah, I think I might have, now that you mentioned it. So let me go out here real quick, and I'm going to put it out here in, this is week 7, right? So I got to open up week 7. So there's that. Awake. Edit. What's today's date?
8.
Yeah, I'll give you that long. I don't care. What difference does it make? At the end of the day, what difference does it make, right? Glad you all agree. So there's that. Now let me see if it works just this way. Keep format. Nope, that's not going to work. Oh, Control V. Remove format. That's not going to work either. Okay, so I've got to do it. Announcement Word. Well, did I put it in Word first? That's what I was wondering, because Word actually keeps the parentheses or the tabs and everything. And then for some reason, I got a feeling that this is the way I did it. Keep formatting. I believe that's going to work. Submit. Whatever. And the reason I'm giving this to us is to everyone is because it's easier than having you type it all in. But again, when I give you something and you paste code and stuff like that, don't take it for granted. Actually pay attention to it, read it. It's just like me providing the solutions to the exercises. It's not for you to just copy and paste. It's for you to use one as a reference, like, you know, Nick was doing this exercise and he's like, why isn't this working? Well, you would have had a reference to go back and look and compare what you have to the correct option. And like I said, that's really a problem. I think that'll work. Yeah, that works. Mostly. Why is that part not working? Well, that's strange. That part should work. That shouldn't have needed a tab. No. I do not see anything wrong with that.
It says entry text is not defined.
I think it's because instead,
Oh.
because on ours, it's,
There you go. So how did I miss that? Is it in here?
Yeah.
So I missed that when I copied it. Yeah, because there's a T there too. Control Z. Yeah, because there's entry text. So I must have copied that at the wrong point. Give me a second. I'm glad I didn't hit submit yet. Or did hit submit, didn't I? Edit. I'm getting there. Oh, it was there. I just must have missed it when I copied it. Yes, I did. Now it's all there. Okay, so submit. Now it's all there. So you can go and create a new file. Okay, so you just go to My Reps, create new. Give it a name that makes sense. Don't just take the name that it gives you. Okay, because good luck finding it later. Just call it journal for yourselves, then just create it. Okay. Oh, and it's got to be this. I'm sorry. So there we go. I create it. And then once you create it, you can paste your text in and run it. It should run. As long as it's running, we're okay. Okay? So now that we have that, let's actually just go back and talk about what's going on and what things are and everything else. Okay? I want to get up and point and stuff, and that's a problem because I'm recording the screen here. If I use this camera and point it at that screen, it just doesn't work right. So it's like, why bother? So it's easier to do it where it's on the screen. Don't Is that easier? If you can't see from where you're at for some reason, you might want to move. You shouldn't necessarily need this sitting in front of you at this moment, okay? But anyway, what am I doing right here? Someone tell me what that is. That has a very specific name for what entry text is. What is entry text?
Is it a variable?
It is a variable, and variables are just used to store something. In this programming language, you're actually using variables to set it equal to something. If I want to, in other languages, I can create variables and say that, okay, well, this variable's a string, and I can have nothing in it, and then I can use it as a storage location at any time I want. Where this, we're starting off and we actually have to give it a set value. Okay? So when this program runs, it's automatically going to start with entry text equals y. So that's the very first line of code it's going to read. So it's going to say, okay, this is y, and it's storing it in the computer's memory. Then it says meal entry equals y, and it stores it in the memory. Okay? And then we go right to a while. Right? So what it's doing now is saying, okay, while entry text equal y, so I'm testing to see if it equals y. Well, it already does, right? So every time all this code runs through, unless I change that, it's going to be y. So it'll keep running under this while as long as that's y. Or entry text equal y. That should be a capital, by the way. Let me change that really quick. And I'll explain that in a second. Or equal yes. And I'm going to add one more. And I'll explain why. I have to account for every possible response that somebody would put in. Do you want to do another one? It might spell out yes. They might use a lowercase, they might use a capital, they might use just a capital Y or a lowercase y. Okay, so I'm controlling for that. There are other ways of controlling for it, but this is the simplest way at this point of learning the code. Okay, so I'm testing to see if it's this or this or this or this. Right? Okay. So if it's any of that, it moves down to the next item. And that's this from date time, import date time. Well, date time is code that's already predetermined by the computer. Okay? I don't have to understand what's happening inside of that. All I have to understand is using this, I can gather information from the computer because that's part of the computer's code. Every computer has that function in it to get the date time. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm saying from the date time, import the date time. I want the whole date time. So it will literally provide me a long string that goes from the actual full date of, well, let me run this again. Well, yeah, let me run this. Let me finish running this because it's got to create this right here is what it pulls in. Okay, so it's literally pulling in the 3-digit abbreviation for the day, the 3-digit abbreviation for the month, then the actual day, right, then the year, then the actual time. Now somewhere I'm actually formatting this, because it's actually a little different than that, because it would literally take, and instead of 1329, which is military time, it would actually say, okay, 1320, that's wrong though. That's going by a clock somewhere else. That's not pulling it from this computer, it's pulling it from whatever server this is on. So that's going to be weird, but the date's right. But 1329, if I was actually pulling the full time in, there'd be another colon or another colon. Colon? Yeah, another colon. And it would actually have 2 more digits, and then it would get all the way down to like milliseconds. So this time would be longer. Make sense? Okay. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to our code. Get as much of it showing as I can. So yeah, we're gathering the date time, and then we're saying today equals. So I've got another variable, and I'm saying today equals datetime.now, which means right at that moment. Okay? So I want datetime.now, so it's going to pull it in. Then I have another variable called full date, where I actually take today, which is this, and I start formatting it. And we talked about that in class one time already, right? You leaving?
No, I'll be back.
Right. Look, he's taking his bottle and everything. He's going to need it. He's going to need all the water he can get when coach makes him run. So anyway, so the percent A, you know, it's giving you one thing. Percent B is giving you another. Percent D. This is string for time. Okay, and that's where you're starting to break down hours and minutes and so on. So this is something that you can find, and I showed you it before. Is you can find this inside of here, or a lot of different locations where you start seeing all, well, there is a list somewhere, and I don't see it in here. Why am I not seeing it in here? Because they're trying to tell you everything on God's green earth, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep it simple. Let's go back one. I format daytime strings. I'm looking for something specific because I want it to be. There is a dictionary that you can find of like the different format codes. You know, a capital A and a lowercase a do different things. A capital B and a lowercase b can do different things. It might be here. Is this where I just was? Probably. Yeah, right here. Okay, so they give all these different codes and stuff. So these percentages, that's where these go. Okay. And that's pretty much the same in any language. It varies a little bit, the letters that they use, but the language is pretty much the same when you go to C-based languages or anything like that, where it's a percent and then what it's supposed to be. It might be a little different, but not a whole lot. Okay. So if I wanted to show this differently, I could go back in here and say, well, you know what, I want a capital Y because I want to see the full version of the year. And this is without century. So right now I'm showing lowercase y. If I was to change this to an uppercase Y, that means I'm getting the 4-digit year. Make sense? Don't ever try to remember absolutely everything about programming because you never will. Just know and get an idea in your head of what you're searching for and be as exact as you possibly can when you're out there looking at code or trying to find working code that you can manipulate. But don't ever try to just remember everything. It's like reading a dictionary from front to back. Yeah, you can memorize it, but until you actually understand it and can put it together, doesn't make sense. But we can find little things like this. if I go back and I look at the output when I ran this, what isn't important in here? You know, do I absolutely need exactly what you see there? Probably not. I don't really need the time of day, do I? So I would go in here and I'd be like, okay, where's my time of day coming from? Well, string time is right there. Hours and minutes. I don't need the hours and minutes. Do you? So I would just delete that. I don't need that. Now if I run it again, you can see that it cuts the hours and minutes off now. They're not there. I've got the 4-digit date there. Do I want to know it's October? Probably. Do I want to know it's a Friday? Probably. The actual day of the week? Yeah. Or like the date itself. So that's a little better than what I had. Follow me? Okay. So let's close this. Let's go back out here. And this is, keep in mind, this is the same code that we started working with last week where we attached to the hello world and we're writing to a text file. This is just, we haven't edited this to fit that narrative, the previous narrative where we were just building on hello world. This is something totally different in some aspects, but it's the same code. Okay. And then here, what am I printing? Just a blank line. Is there another way of doing that? Yeah, there is. What is another way? What could I put here? Could I put anything? Yeah. Wow, I love when it does stuff like this to me.
You do like \n.
Yeah, you might be able to do a \n right there, right? So I might be able to go something like that. Does that have to be in quotes? I can't remember. Yeah. No, that makes more sense. Okay, so I got a \n. So I could technically comment this out and see what happens. Right? So troubleshooting, don't always get rid of your code. Leave it there, because now if I try this and it doesn't do what I want it to do, I could take that piece of code line, or I can take that line of code and put it back in. Okay? So right now I'm going to run it again. See what happened? It did exactly the same thing. Right? So I don't have to print a blank line. I can just do the /n, because that's /n, or is that backslash? I don't know. That /n, I can never tell the difference between a / and a backslash. Oh, no, yeah, that's a backslash, because this is /. Okay, I got you. But that /n is what gets you your new line. So I can technically get rid of that line of code, which makes it a little more efficient, right? Now, here's the other thing. You see, as I'm doing this, I have comments in here. Food journal code starts here. Format date and time starts here. Okay? Get the date and time from the system. I'm literally commenting things as I go through. That way, when I have a problem, I can go back and look and say, okay, well, my problem is where I'm writing my stuff to the screen for the date. Okay, well, where is that coming from? I'm formatting it here. I'm printing it right there. You can get so nitpicky on this stuff that you put another comment here. You could do something like that, where now you're printing the date to the screen. I added that comment. And I am recording my screen, and I'll post this, so if you can't see 100%, it will be out there, plus you'll have this code. Then I get down to here, and I'm saying, hey, I've got a comment. It's telling me, hey, the food journal code starts here, and here's where I start getting input. Okay, so you have print where it prints it to the screen. You have input where somebody's typing on the screen and you're capturing that. Right? And it's a variable that I'm filling with whatever the input is. Right? Okay. So, when we did Hello World, we did print. When we did Hello World and expanded a little bit, we did input, right? Because I asked if your name's David Sanford, then you get an A. If it's not, you get an F. Right? So I got input, and then we started getting the if functions and everything else. But so we had input and we had print. Wasn't the most difficult thing in the world, but it also, I have to recognize that it's not always the most simple thing in the world, and that's a hard thing for me sometimes because I do this and it gets in my head and I'm just going at it. You know, people say things, well, it's not rocket science. Well, to some people it might be. And sometimes I make assumptions. Whenever I teach MIS2140, you know, basic office applications, I make this assumption that everyone coming into my class has had some type of experience with Excel and PowerPoint and stuff. And every year, no matter how old I get and how many years it's been that since computers have been in schools, I have people come in that had no experience. So it's always a humbling thing. So if I make blanket statements, call me out on it. Okay, so anyway. So, my meal equals input. What goes in between the parentheses here, all that is a statement. If it said enter first name, it literally is saying I'm asking for input, but it's going to prompt for that input. This is the prompt that I'm giving the user. So when I ran this, that's what it's doing, is it's literally just printing that to the screen. And then it gives you a colon and spot where you can type. So if I type an S in here for snack, enter the food eaten, and we'll get to that point. Okay, so it's asking for input. But it's asking on the screen, so you have to have, well, I don't want to say you have to have something here, but if you don't have something there, it's not very intuitive to your user. So your user's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to type here? So they start taking a stab in the dark. You know, is it a snack? So I type in snack. Well, where's that going, right? Okay, so there's that. Now this is an interesting line of code right here, because this was what was new last week. Okay? I'm opening a text file. If I don't have this, if this part right here isn't there, I'm literally just opening a text file. If the text file doesn't exist, it's going to error out. If I click run right now, and I put an S because I know that's it, it is going to literally give me an error, and I can't show it. Why? It says unsupported operation, not writable. Why is it not writable? Because it doesn't exist. There's no file to put it in. Okay? That little plus A, remember, inside of something, inside the parentheses, a comma is going to separate arguments. Okay? So I did a plus A, was it? Did that have to be in quotes or anything?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to make sure you have it in quotes. Okay? The plus A is just saying that we have an argument that's plus A. It's not going to print plus A. Was that single quotes or double?
Single.
Yeah. I'm going to say, why is this not heading? There we go.
Not letting it.
It does, on the screen it does weird things. Okay, so Oh yeah, that's right. Which that's weird. I never understood that. Whatever.
It was inside the,
No, like
after the A.
Yeah.
Oh, duh. Wow, what just happened?
Go ahead,
Comma A. Oh, the screen. Sometimes these tools that you choose online aren't the best tools in the world, but it gives it access to everybody if you're on a Mac or what have you. So it works. So now what's going to happen is, let me stop that again, run it again. If I put an S in, it has no problem because what it just did, and why don't I see it now? Oh my God, where'd it go? There. It created it. The A plus is appending a file, and if the file doesn't exist, it adds it. Okay? And it works for text files, it'll work for CSV files, different things like that. It recognizes that type of format, like the actual file format, and that it will create it. You can't just make it like an executable. You can't like do a .exe because that's going to create problems. Okay, but anyway, there's that. I think you could do. You might be able to do a .pdf. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, so it creates it now. So everything I enter from that point forward, I am giving my option. And once I have the file open, now I'm telling it what to do within the file. Okay? I'm going to stop that. Once I have the file created and open, I start telling it what to do. I'm going to write the full date. I'm going to put a new line and put whatever was stored in meal. Okay? Did this have to be here? Or could I have taken this and put it up here? Right? Point is, you just have to create a new line. It doesn't matter if you created it in the previous piece of code or the next piece of code. You have to create a new line. That format right there is the most likely format that you're going to. What the hell? This code right there is most likely the way you would see it if you were to do a search, like on the internet and look for code. You would probably see the /n in that line of code. Okay. And then go on and go on and go on. So instead of here, I would have literally did a probably done that, and then this line of code shouldn't be needed. Follow me? I'm recording this too, so if you can't follow along quick enough, this is being recorded and I'll post it. Okay. So instead of trying to do, if you start falling behind a little bit, instead of trying to catch up, number one, ask a question, because if you have a question, odds are someone else has it too. Okay. That's why we're doing this, because somebody made a statement or asked me a question, and I'm like, okay, well, if you have that question, I've got other people that are in that same boat, and I guarantee it. And every one of us can benefit from going back over this. So, which I don't know if I ever told you guys, but that's the way I learn about you guys and about where we're at, is by people asking questions and making comments. And you know, I take things in stride. You can say just about anything you want to me. You can say, hey, your teaching style absolutely sucks, we need to fix it, and I will. Okay, so.
That doesn't work, by the way. You can't have slash and
Yeah. There was a post and then it disappeared, so I was wondering where that went.
Do I have to have it here?
No, it was at the 21, line 21.
Oh, yeah, and that's probably what I forgot to move. Yeah, because I had the /n plus meal. I should have probably put plus and see if that works. So instead of the comma, use a plus. Okay. And I could have probably put it up here the same way. The idea is that if you don't need this, don't have it, right? If you can put it in a different line of code, then put it in a different line of code. This one doesn't matter as much because I need this line of code, but I'm debating whether I need this line. Do I really need that? Or can I include that new line up here? See what I'm saying? So instead of deleting that, what should I do? Instead of deleting this line of code, I should comment it temporarily, just so I can see if it works, right? And now if I was to run this, we're about to see if it works, right? We got that in the right order. I'm going to put an S for snack. Do you want to add another item? No. Do you want to make another? No. So now it's going to show that there's a SS. I've got different things happening. But here's the test. I have to open whichever one of these it is, probably this one, and it did put it there. The date's missing, so I'm not putting that in there properly, right? If I go to this one, this was the one I just did where it was SS. Something printed SS, and that was probably from the previous code. So there's problems with the code. We haven't been testing it to see if it actually is doing what we want in the text file. All we're doing is figuring, okay, well, how is this happening, right? So this last one with eggs, that's fine. This one, this is where things start getting a little iffy. So maybe I can't put my ends in those locations. See what I'm saying? So you have to test things to make sure it's doing what you want it to do. If you're not testing your code as you go along, you are going to have problems, and then you're not going to know exactly where they're coming from. Because it is quite possible and really easy, I should say, to have a program that has absolutely zero errors, and then when you run it, it's not doing anything near what you wanted it to do. Number one, that's why you start with a flow chart. So you create a map of what you're doing. You might go all the way to pseudocode. You write a brief outline about what you're trying to accomplish, and that should help you line this up. Okay. So let's go into this and let's see. Okay, well, we're printing full date. We're giving a /n, so a new line. Then I'm asking this question. I create the file. So somewhere along the line, I have. I'm writing the full date. I'm writing the type of meal. So maybe this /n did have to be in the front, and maybe I do need this, or maybe I just take this back out and see what happens. Okay, and if that doesn't fix the problem, then I know my code elsewhere is the problem. Okay, so now I'm going to try it again and see what happens. And a lot of times what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to delete your text file because you want to start fresh. Okay. So then I click run, and I want to do B for breakfast. No, and it throws me out. Now I'm getting BB for breakfast, so and it's creating two text files. So now I know I've got something going on in my logic, because it's running this twice. And if I look at the first one, there's my eggs and it's going by the date. If I was to run this again, watch what happens. It just updated that first file. It also updated this one. So what I have going on, I've created two text files. One of them is actually operating properly. The other one is not. So somewhere in here in my code, I would go back and I would start looking at it and be like, okay, where, and you got to remember, I copied and pasted this code in, so maybe there is a problem with the tabs or something of that nature when things are happening. So where am I creating my file, right? And right here is where I'm creating it. And where is it happening under? So if we go all the way up here, so while entry text equal Y, or yes, or capital yes, I can type any of those values in and it will go on to the next thing. I'm getting the date, I'm formatting the date, I'm saving that date, or printing it to the screen, I should say. I saved it in full date already. And then here, I'm saying, okay, I'm asking for input, what the meal is, and here I'm actually opening the file. Where on earth is it getting that other file name, right? So, do I have another? I do. It's right there.
Can you go up a bit? I lost you when you did the 20, yeah.
I do have another question that's being asked down lower, right? So right here, I'm creating this thing called journal text. Down there, I'm creating another text file. I haven't made it that far in the code, so I didn't see it, because all of your code's not showing on the screen at the same time. Right? You all set? So we know that the date time one was working, which is here, right? And here I'm saying F eaten, so food eaten. Enter the food eaten during eaten. Let's say enter the food you ate during this meal, and then we're saying, okay, create this, write the full date, write the food eaten, new line, so on. So I know for a fact that maybe, just maybe, I don't need that code right there, or that code right there, right? So how do I test that? I comment that line out. I don't get rid of it, right? Because if I get rid of it, what happens? If I get rid of it, it could, right. Now here's the other thing. Because I'm not opening a file, I can't write to that file even yet. Right? So technically, I have more code I have to comment out if I want to test. So if you have an error in your code, don't get rid of it. Comment it out, because that. Now let's see if it does what we want it to do. Okay? So I'm going to test again. We're troubleshooting. So I want to do dinner. Food eaten during this meal would be no, I don't want to add another one, and no, I don't want to do that. It kicks me out. It's pulling stuff in, but it's pulling it in from journal, I guarantee you. Nothing should have changed here, and it didn't. Okay? But this one, eggs, bacon, pizza, I know it's working to some extent, right? We have a problem, and the problem being that it's not actually writing what meal it is and all this other stuff. Correct? It's not putting the date there and all that stuff. So if we know that, oh, go back this way. If we know that, yeah, that's right. If we know that the code is working right now to looking for where I'm creating the new file. Right here. I'm using string full date. I should probably be using journal. And right here, all I'm adding is food eaten. I am not adding all of this other stuff, right? I have not added, let's actually try this code. I'm just going to copy it. And instead of just food eaten, I'm actually going to paste it. Get rid of these. It can be a little time consuming sometimes to uncomment stuff because you have to get rid of all your pound signs and everything else. By the way, I do more than one, but one works. Okay, I do more than one because I'm under the habit of, in C#, for instance, you have to use double slash. A single slash doesn't work to comment. So that's why I do that. Do I need this right here? Write string full date. What's the code telling me is wrong here? If I hover over it, invalid syntax. What's the invalid syntax? Oh, I'm over one too many spaces. Is that the only problem? That looked like the only problem. Oh. There we go. I was missing something in the previous line, which that can happen too. So let's run it again and see what happens. Sorry about that. I'm going to eat pizza again. Now I'm getting errors. So whatever I just did didn't work. Now, whatever I just did didn't work, but did it actually write anything anywhere? And the answer is no. So all that code that I just did, I know I have an error in it. I would actually take it back out of there and do that by hand instead of just pasting code in. Because now I know that the block of code that I pasted in isn't working. So I would actually get rid of that code and figure out exactly how I wanted to do that. And I didn't see what the error is. Yes, I do know what the error is, because it's traceback f open string full date, but it doesn't exist. And let me explain why. Let me look at something. Where am I creating that at? Oh, right here. I'm saying open string full date. Well, the file does not currently exist. Why? Well, yeah, that's one of the problems. So what do I have to do? If I go back up here, I had it right. So it's comma, single quote A plus on. So I do comma, single quote A plus. Right? Oh. Is that all I need?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. So now if I run it, let's see what happens, right? I'm going to stop. I got to click on this because it doesn't refresh the screen properly. So I'm going to say that this is breakfast. and I'm going to say eggs again. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to say no, no, and it worked, right? Now it's still pulling this stuff in right here because it still has that journal file, so it still wants to pull that in. But let's look and see what happened to, and here's the trick. Remember how I said, well, there's a reason that it can't find that file? These look like the exact same files. They're not. One is a text file, the other isn't, number one. Number two, if I am using something like date and I run it, every time I run it, guess what's happening? The date time's changing, and now I'm using that as a new file name. So it's going to give me a new file every single time. I can run it a second later, I should get a new file. That's a problem. So what that tells me is this. How about instead of doing it that way, how about I go back to my code and instead of open this, open it as a text file. Does this have to be in quotes? Yeah, it's a string. Okay. Is this starting to make more sense for people? Is this helping people?
I understand it better today than I did last night.
Okay. So, you know, and that's the thing. Every time we see it, it's going to get easier. Every time we do it, it's going to get easier. You don't learn programming just by reading a book. You learn and doing a couple exercises from a book. You learn by trying it in different formats, you know, troubleshooting, different things like that. So now let's test it. But before we test it, let's actually get, I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to delete these other two though. So the date ones I'm going to remove. Okay. So now we have this one, which is the original. And I want to see what's writing now. Make sense? I'm not going to change this right now, like the actual file. I'm just going to run it again and see what happens. And when I run it, I can see what happens real time. Okay? What do I want? I want a snack, and I'm going to say that's jerky. I'm going to say enter. No. No. Okay, I'm still.
Good screen for me. Now it's back on.
That's that thing. I don't know what's going on with that sometimes. It did the exact same thing. Therefore, I'm writing something that I shouldn't be writing. Right? But the idea is it is updating that file. I don't have to worry about that. At this point, I have so much in here that's not 100% correct that I'm actually going to delete that. So next time I run it, I'm starting with a fresh file. I'm going to go back out here and look at what I'm doing. Here I'm writing meal. Well, what is meal? Let's go all the way back up to the top. That's meal entry. Where am I getting meal from? Meal equals input. So it's writing this. And it's writing it twice. Right? So if that's the meal, F eaten is the other thing I want, right? So the meal, and then okay, so I've got a new line. I should probably have another one here. And then we test to see if that's what we want. Okay? Following me? Glad you all agree. And let's try to get rid of this line of code while we're at it. Okay? Oh, not that. Let's try to get rid of that by adding it here. Okay? So I have to do a plus, quote, slash, n, unquote. Okay, so that might work, should work, we'll see. Now, I want to actually run it. We're going to test to see what happens. We know we want it to be a snack. I hit enter. Enter. Now, here's the thing. If I move this over, I click on journal. Okay, so now it's saying S jerky. That's what I'm looking for. I've got the date. I don't have the time. I took the time out of there, right? But I've got the date. I know it's a snack. And I know I ate jerky for that snack. Let's see what happens if I take it a step further. Yes, I want another item. And another food item would be an apple. And I hit enter. It created a whole new entry. Is that okay? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Okay? But I know I can add another thing. If I say no, I don't want that, but yes, I want another meal. Now I want breakfast, and I hit enter. What do I want? Eggs. Okay, so it just did something I didn't want it to do, because down here it's, do you want to make another entry? I shouldn't have had to answer that if I wanted to enter another meal. So that might be something I have to deal with. If I hit yes, now I say that, what did I say up top? Breakfast. So now I'm stuck in a loop I didn't want to be stuck in. So if I say yes and then I put something in, I'm stuck in something I don't want to be stuck in. If I put a no here, it'll take me out. And it shows what's in my file. So I'm reading values in and printing them to the screen. We haven't even made it to that code yet. We're just kind of tearing apart this little bit of code to see what's happening. Okay? Currently, we've made it through. Oh, show that back up. There. Currently, we're approximately, well, 30 some lines of code, right? We know I don't need this. I'm going to delete that now that I know I don't need that. We know we don't need all of this, right? We're using it down below. I know I don't need it. I'm going to delete it. Why have it there? It's just going to create confusion later. I scroll back up. Is there anything else that I needed to get rid of? No. I might want to put the time back in. I don't have to, but if I wanted to, I could do it. Okay. And the only thing I'm thinking of it is the output. You know, it helps to know maybe what time you ate it. But is it necessary? Just another piece of information. Okay, so do you want another entry? Remember up here, I'm saying meal entry equal Y. Well, while meal entry equals Y or uppercase Y. Now, that's important to recognize, right, is that it can be that or uppercase, which I don't think I did anything wrong there. However, I didn't say anything about meal input. So do you want another entry? Where am I? While meal entry equal Y or meal entry equal Y, do this. So I'm going to say F eaten equals input. We made it all the way to here, right? Because we're like, do you want to make another entry Y or N? So entry text currently way up at the top was Y. I haven't changed it. If I change it to N, it stops running the program. If I hit Y, it keeps running the program. And it should bounce us back up to this while. I don't think it did. I think that's where our problem was. I don't think it bounces up here. I think it bounces somewhere else. And that I could test just based on, does this belong out here? Does it belong in one more? It's hard to tell. My guess is that you're going to, we can try it here and see if it makes a difference. You know, and this is all logic. I should be putting more comments in here. So because we've done this, we actually have an understanding what's happening in the code, right? Well, let's add some comments so as I'm running or looking at my code, it makes sense, right? Do I need anything else there? No. Here maybe I need so here I'm opening a file or creating a new file. Then here I'm actually writing the values to the file. And then here I am okay, and then we can keep going and going and going. So I'm determining if we want to continue. If we do want to continue, then entry text input, do you want to make another entry? So if I say no here, it should drop me to here. Is that true? This should bounce, if I say no there, it should bounce me out, right? It should bounce me out of the loop, which should bring me back to here maybe? And if it does, then I actually need that to be back a level, because that should be in line with the while. Okay, because everything that happens from while, all the indented stuff that happens after the while, happens inside of that. So if I say no here or yes here, is it going to bounce me out and send me to the next question? Okay. Because this has everything to do with the item, not whether or not we want to keep doing the entry. So I could try it again. Okay, so literally we're taking a piece of code, or we're taking code from a program. We have a general understanding what it's supposed to do, I hope, because we've run it a few times in that. And now we have to determine, okay, what do we want it to do? How do we want it to do it? And when do we want it to do it? Okay. So it's not something, like when you break it down like this, hopefully it's a lot easier to understand what's going on. Okay. It gives you an idea of, like, when I look at a program, how do I look at it, right? And the way I do things might differ from the way the book does it. And I know it differs from the way 10,000 other people do it, right? You searched online and you probably saw like 90 different ways of doing things, and some of them make absolutely no sense because those are people that know rocket science and they just want to prove it. Okay. I keep the code as simple as I can because, well, I need people to understand it. Okay, so at this point right here, I've bounced back. I would probably say, I would probably put a hashtag here and okay, so the previous was, do we want another item? And here's the thing, I could potentially be missing a whole while, couldn't I? Because way up here, I said while meal entry equals this. I don't have any other wheel or other while that has anything about entry text. Oh yeah, I do, it's right there. So while entry text equals y, we're going to do all of this including that while. So let's see if that's lining up. Yeah, it is lining up, but this while, my guess is that this here falls underneath the first while. This is falling underneath the second while loop. So my guess is that right here is going to decide whether or not we add a new entry where the other one is still running based on do we want another item. Okay, so if you didn't do it, I did, that was there. I backed it out one level and then we would test it and see if it's doing what we want it to do. Okay, so basically what I gave you is I gave you a program that ran, but it wasn't running correctly, right? So there were no code problems whatsoever. It's all logic problems. That logic is something you have to work through or have a map, and that map being a flow chart. Now, my biggest downfall as far as what I make students do is I don't make you do flow charts. I should be making you do flow charts for every program. My experience though is when I make you do flow charts for every program, people don't do them. Or for lack of better terms, they half-ass them. So they do no good anyway. Okay. What I would suggest is at least an outline. Yes, it's time to go.
Like show an example of like one of your flow charts one day?
Of what?
Can you show an example of like one of your flow charts one day?
I can make one. I'm worse than you guys because I don't do them. But that's because I've programmed for a long time. Okay? So anyway, have a good weekend. Hopefully this helped. I will post this video and we will continue this next class. Oh, there are exercises that are in week 7 folder that you have to do. So look at that. Okay?